So let's get started. So the first thing that we're gonna do in this tutorial for the demonstration purpose is we're gonna create two variables and we try to perform the divide by zero exception. So here for the demonstration purpose I'm gonna create two variables, and let's say int a, and let's initialize this one to a value of 10, and let's say a variable called b, and let's initialize this one to 0, and also let's have another variable called c. Okay, now we try to do a divided by b, and we're gonna store that in c. So it's gonna be c equal to a divided by b. So now this part of the code is gonna produce the exception. So if I save this and try to build and run this program, okay, before that just print out the value of c. Okay, I'm gonna build and run this program, and now you guys can see exception handling.exe has stopped working. That's because of this a divided by b. The divide by zero exception has occurred, and because of that our program crashed. As a programmer, we don't want to crash our program. So what we want to do is, if any divide by zero situation occurs, we want to handle this situation. Now we know that this part of my code may produce an exception result when this b value becomes 0. So now to handle this exceptional situation, we're gonna make use of the C++ exceptional handling mechanism. So first what we can do is we can place this code in a try block. So this try block is used to place the code that we think that might produce the error or the exception. So try and then a block by using the opening and closing curly braces. I'm gonna place this code in the try block. So here this statement may produce an exception. So the next thing is, if the exceptional situation occurs, then we need to throw the exception. So here the exception situation occurs only if the value of b becomes 0. So we can check that by using if b equal to 0, and then we want to throw an exception here. So to throw the exception, we're gonna use the throw keyword. So it's gonna be throw, and then we're just gonna throw a string specifying that divide by zero error has occurred. So it's gonna be divide by zero error. So now we have placed the code that might produce the exception in the try block, and we have checked for the condition that might cause the exception, and if that condition satisfies, at that time we have thrown an exception. The next thing is we want to handle this exception. So if this exception occurs, we want to handle it. To handle the exception, we can use the catch. So we need to use the keyword catch and then a pair of parentheses, and here the exception is of type const char. That's why we're gonna specify that here, the same type, const char star and e. Okay, let's say e. So this is the exception type that we want this catch block to handle. So here we're gonna write a particular block of code that's gonna handle this situation. What we want to do is we're gonna tell to the user that some exceptional condition has occurred, the divide by zero situation has occurred. So for that I'm going to use cout, and I'm just going to say exception occurred, and let's end this line, and then we're going to print out the message which is thrown, which is divide by zero error. So that is present in this e, and that's it. Then add the semicolon. Alright, now if I save this and build and run this program, now you guys can see exception occurred, divide by zero error. So here the exceptional situation was this divide by zero error, and we have placed the code that might produce the exception in this try block, and then we have thrown the exception using the throw keyword, and also we have returned the exception handling mechanism or the code to handle the exception in the catch blocks. And also what happens here is when this exception is thrown, the control will be directly passed to this catch block. The statements next to that will not be executed, and that's why when we throw this exception, this two statements will not be executed, and the control will be directly transferred to this catch block, and the code inside that catch block will be executed. So we can say that we're going to use the try block to place the code that we think that might produce an exceptional condition, and then to throw the exception we're going to use the throw keyword, and to handle the exception that has occurred we're going to use the catch block. So now you guys may ask me like, okay dude, why we have to use this try and catch and throw here? We just can check that by using if b equal to 0. I can specify to the user by using the cout that the divide by 0 error has occurred, else I can execute this code. Here using this try and catch is the C++ way of handling the exceptional situations in your program. And also this is a very simple example, but if you talk about the complex example, like I have explained about the databases, and in that complex programs it's very difficult to use only if and else and handle the exceptional situations. So here this is the C++ way of handling the exceptional situations. So